What's up, everybody? It's Christopher DAV1D on ECF, Aero Vapor on YouTube. Let me apologize ahead of time for the terrible resolution. I'm having difficulty with my other good camera and video editing program, so this is what we got for today. I also apologize if I'm dopey, but I live in Connecticut and we just got hit with a pretty serious hurricane for us and been on work for the last 14 days straight. A lot of people lost their homes, are flooded, had over 250,000 people without power in Connecticut. So for the last 4 days I've been on the shoreline helping people to get their houses back together. And so with that said, today I have got a review for the new Vortex at gotvapes.com. As you all remember, the original Vortex, which looked a little something like this, when it worked well, it worked well. However, it was completely inconsistent, and so you had issues like this rubber cap that would fall off at the blink of a hat or in your pocket. It wouldn't feed juice well. You'd get dry hits and then it would leak, so it was completely inconsistent. Great thought, just came out a little too soon. The new one, it's a better thought, and working great for me now. The difference is, one, the cap doesn't come off. You have to really pull it out. There's a rubber plug, then this plastic top with like a metal rim. You put it on there. The middle air tube is protected because it goes in the middle of the rubber stopper. The tube leads down to the bottom where there's filler on the inside of the cup versus the outside of the cup on the other Vortex. There is a coil in there with wicking that goes side to side. The juice wicks down the side of the cup, fills in there, gets the filler wet, so that way it's not just the wick, you have the filler that's wet to keep you from getting any dry hits. So, with that being said, let me take one more hit and then I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. Great vapor production, great flavor, great throat hit. As you could see, actually with this camera you probably can't see, the little bubbles in there starting to form at the very bottom. What it does is as you take hits, oh there you can see a bubble, the bubbles will come out, the air comes out, juice slowly feeds in there, so that way you have a wet wick and wet, that's what she said, wet filler, and no dry hits. I have had no dry hits on this at all. However, when I first got them, I had everything but a positive experience. I was using it, and I'm a little slow sometimes, so I don't know where the hell it went. I was using it, instead of on my volt battery, I was using it with an 808 adapter on my ProVary, on my Ego. Well, I would fill it, and I would end up losing half of the juice out the bottom. It would drip out the bottom, made a mess. I got in contact with Chris at Got Vapes. I told him what my experience was. So he said, let me send you a few more. You know, it's got to be just something weird going on because we've had a couple that dripped, but you're talking 2 or 3 out of, 5,000 units. So he sent me more. Tried it again, had the same exact experience. So I was starting to get frustrated because when it was working and not leaking, it tastes great. So I said, screw it. Let me try putting it on the volt battery. So I did. It's a little bit of a tight draw on the volt battery. However, has not leaked once. So it appears that my adapter, my 808 adapter sucks. So, been using it on the volt, working perfect. However, I have a tip. Never fails, and this is just from me. Other people have not had this experience, but if you have juice in there, don't touch the cap. Don't take the cap off. What happens is, and I don't really want to replicate the scenario to show you how it works. Screw it, I'll do it. Watch the bubbles in there when I do this. Now keep in mind I'm donating this juice to the cause. So watch the cart when I take the cap off. You see how the bubbles are starting to fly up and all I'm doing is wiggling it? And now you saw all those like major bubbles that just came up? Well, in about 60 seconds, this thing is going to flood like a mofo. Never fails, every single time. Every single time. But there's a very easy solution for that. And that solution is, don't take the cap off while you're vaping it. If you have juice in there, don't touch it. Let it run out and then fill it up when necessary. But do not take the cap off in the middle. To me, it's not a big issue and it's not a big deal because it only happens if you do that action that I just showed you. If you take the cap off halfway through. And there's no reason to take the cap off when you have juice in the Cartomizer. So just don't take the cap off and it wicks and works perfect. No juice in your mouth, no dry spots, great flavor, great vapor production. Let me take one more hit. So again, and I don't know if you're able to see that on this video because I don't know what the resolution is going to look like on this camera. But I assure you, it works flawlessly if you don't take that cap off. And there's no reason to take the cap off. And like I said, on my 808 adapter, I was having issues, but come to find out it was that 808 adapter because now I've put 3 tankfuls through this particular one, and it's been working flawless. I've never had a dry hit. Every couple of hits, you'll see like 1 or 2 little bubbles come up the side where the wick is because the air is coming out and the juice is feeding in, and it works flawlessly. The filler stays damp, so even when the wick, after you take a hit and the wick starts to dry, it doesn't take a while for it to catch up because you still have a little bit of filler in there. However, you have no filler taste. So, huge win. Works as if it were a filler Cartomizer as far as how it wicks, but you don't taste any of the filler. So, huge win. You'll also know if you're going to get flooded because... Oh, it's done leaking. Thank you. You'll know because the filler in there will become absolutely saturated. You'll be able to tell the difference by looking at it. That filler should be damp, wet, whatever, but not completely saturated to where it looks like that inner cup is full of juice. And every time that I've filled this up and used it, it works that way unless I take that cap off. I have experienced when I first fill it, or when it runs out, I take the cap off and I fill it, you'll get a little bit of dripping out the bottom, but just pat it off, blow it off, put it on, and it won't leak again. So, I definitely recommend this Cartomizer. I actually haven't been using my new CE2s, the CE2 Deluxes, since I got these working really well, because to me the flavor and vapor production in these are far superior to others. Those new CE2s are working incredible, and I was using those straight without anything else. But now that I got this working, this is my favorite. But I think part of that is because I always loved the Vortex. I loved the concept of the Vortex. I loved the way it worked when it worked well. The problem was it was completely inconsistent. You never knew what kind of vape you were going to get, and you can never leave with just the Vortex. Leave your house with just the Vortex, because you never knew if you're going to get a satisfying vape. So, now that I have one that's completely satisfying, working perfectly for me, I am sold on the new Vortex. Completely sold on it. And since I got it working, that's all I've been using. Take one more hit. Like I said, the vapor production, the throat hit, the flavor, all great. Loving it. I had that one issue in the beginning, which ended up being my adapter, but now that I have it on my Volt battery, the draw is a little tight on this battery, but that doesn't bother me at all. The flavor and the vapor production and the throat hit just make up for the fact that I have a little bit of a tight draw. I don't care. So, gotvapes.com, good guys over there. Like, I had a product a couple weeks ago that was a little bit defective. It was a variable volt pass-through. So I contacted them within 2 days. I had a new one. So good guys over there. They'll take care of you. Go on there. If you liked the first Vortex, or if you wanted to like the first Vortex, I definitely recommend trying it. Now that I figured out what the issue was with my adapter, these things are working flawlessly and I'm loving them. It kind of brought new light to my volt batteries because I am really digging this Cartomizer on the volt battery. So definitely go out, give it a try. I'm sold on it. I've been using nothing but this since I got it working well. Hit me up, PM me, comment, questions, concerns. Other than that, I will see you on the threads.